What it do, Sober Soldier, salute. This is Stick from Dead Prayers with my partner, M1. And you are in tune to gotkushTV.
There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get booked. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Achomi na jeli gbojo kwe ni biane nyenko gotkushTV nyeyiradon. My name is Na Jeli Gbojo Kwe, and right now you're watching gotkushTV. Thank you.
Every year in the month of May, we chant liberation. We gather every year in the month of May, cause we are one black nation. And we celebrate all our victory and prepare for each new fight. We vanquish you all down better, whether black, yellow, brown or white. Cause black struggle international in this year time, and we want liberation now. After we struggle, I want in North America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I want in the Caribbean, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I want in Canada, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I want in South America, me say we want liberation now. After we struggle, I want in Europe, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I want in a Britain, man, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I want in a Asia, me say we want liberation. No, after we struggle, I want in a Australia, me say we want liberation. No, and so we trot down the road and it a cause sensation behind the colors of the new black nation. I step into the valleys in the shadow of the wicked, just a chant liberation. Tell it to the nation. What we want to see is Africa strong and free. We sing it in a reggae song all the time. Say what is to be has got to be. Africa shall be free. Who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And me say, how do we get it? Fight. We must fight. To defend the truth and defend the right. It's Africa Liberation Day. The true black spirit is here to stay. Before this power, no one life is dear. Freedom come, what me? Freedom come, what me? And the wife them who were standing by were watching fearful, wondering, saying, who are these people who walk so proud? Who are these people who chant so loud? Are these not they who live in darkness and to whom we have given light? Are these not the sons and daughters of the savage who we have taught to read and write? Have we not taught them our history and honor them with our culture? And brought them into our great house to serve and stand at our great table? Have we not granted them what they deserve? Well, African proverbs say that humble those who can listen can learn, and who can hear go and feel. We are the the sheep of the pasture, and now we shall inherit our land. And we are also the lion, against who none shall stand. We are the sons and daughters of the original nation that gave to this world first knowledge of civilization. We were the victim of the white savage to whom we stretched out our hand, and not knowing they came to plunder, kill and slave our people and destroy our land. So now we step it down the road and it's a car sensation behind the colors of the new black nation and a one chance liberation. And we say, who are we? Africans. What do we want? Freedom. And we say, how do we get it? Fight, we must fight. We defend the truth and defend the right. This is Africa Liberation Day. A true black spirit is here to stay. We bow this power, no one life this day. Freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? A freedom come, what me? What me?
Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theater of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024, we welcome activist, organizer and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed. Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theater of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024, we welcome activist, organizer and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed. Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theater of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024, we welcome activist, organizer and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed. Ten time warrior brothers and sisters, giving thanks unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kudzai Mutsimukuru. We give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Tenamwari. We are here, brothers and sisters, for a quick impromptu vibration. After I came off, signed off yesterday on the live, I was privy to an article, yes, that was circulating on the internets. And basically, I thought, you know, can't really miss this opportunity to go live and inform the masses on these things. And we've been rather historical this week in terms of achievements of Assassination for Kwame Nkrumah. Want to give thanks to Brother Bonchi Anyete and Auntie Afiyong El Afiyong for joining us yesterday. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters. And giving thanks to Brother Set Imhotep for letting me know that I'm clearly audible and visible. I should have asked that to begin with, but you give thanks to my brother. Much appreciate love. And yeah, giving thanks to Bonchi Anyete and Auntie Afiyong El Afiyong for joining me yesterday for our exploration of the achievements of the Assassination for Kwame Nkrumah. Sinners weep and mourn when we begin to talk about the achievements of great leaders such as the Assassination for Kwame Nkrumah. And I repeat what I said yesterday, regardless of our areas of departure, you know, from figures like Assassination for Kwame Nkrumah and any other of our great African leaders and movements, it is necessary for us to understand what the challenges that they were faced with and the thing that they were trying to achieve. Yeah, and that is the only real basis for analysis, critique, and development upon what they laid down. Yeah, so we give thanks for them. If you are not subscribed to gotkushTV, subscribe to gotkushTV. Hit up the Patreon if the spirit moves you. And as always, brothers and sisters, if you would like your comment, question read out, please at gotkushTV. If you would like your comment or question read out, please at gotkushTV. I'm just still deciding whether I'm going to fling out the link today. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If anybody's got anything burning with them once, then you know, feel free to let me know and I'll see what I can do. At the same time, this was an impromptu live, yeah, just to shine a light on this new information that is coming to light. Now, I say new information, but really and truly, you know, it's common knowledge in essence that Western powers were behind the overthrow of Assassination for Kwame Nkrumah. Yeah, in particular the British and the Americans. However, because of how politics runs in today's world, what happens is across time, you have the declassification of documents of intelligence agencies and governments, yeah, around the world. And so after a particular period of time within the legal system, within the law of various different nations, such as the United Kingdom of Great Britain, they declassify certain documents that were once considered to be secret based upon national security interests. Yeah. And so what has happened is that recently some documents have been declassified, and there is a website, a media organization in the UK called Declassified UK, and their whole remit is to stay upon top of these things, looking at the sources, them, and you know, write stories, yeah, upon the findings. Okay, and so they've recently written a story called Top Secret. Document exposes UK role in Ghana coup. So we're going to go into that article in a second, brothers and sisters. But just to note that whatever comes out of these declassified files, yeah, we have to bear in mind that the worst of the exploits of British colonialism on the continent of Africa is a matter that is lost to history, because after, in the decolonial period, the British government instituted a policy called a formal operation called Operation Legacy. There is actually a Wikipedia page where you can find some basic information on this, whereby literally their operatives of the colonial governments, yeah, across the continent of Africa in particular, were charged with the responsibility of destroying all of the evidence of Britain's worst exploits, yeah. And so particularly in places like Kenya, where we know that effectively concentration camps were established by the British, mass imprisonment, torture, was used against the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, you know, also known as the Mau Mau, yeah, in Kenya. A lot of the worst exploits of what was suffered by our brothers and sisters and ancestors and elders in Kenya has basically, the record of it has been destroyed under the orders of the British government, yeah. And so I'm just putting that out there because whatever we read today, yes, we can certainly deduce from the history of Britain that they did far worse and they were far more involved and had a far deeper role, yeah. But it's necessary just to detail these things anyway, just to note these things and move forward, yeah. We knew these things anyway, all right, but we have to understand that particularly at this time, Britain was profiling itself in the world as a bastion of human rights because it had spearheaded the Western world's machinations in mass European War II. Yes. Now, obviously, there's also the Americans to deal with in that sense as well, with regards to this idea of being the land of the free and the home of the brave, and obviously bastions of human rights also. At the same time, necessary for us to know as African people the extent to which these people were involved in serious levels, yeah, not joke business levels of chicanery, political and economic intrigue in African nations, whereas the British government in particular profiled its work in terms of decolonization as a gift, yes, to the continent, really in many ways as the culmination of their, quote, civilizing mission. Behind the scenes, they were doing their best to hold on to the colonial exploits, yes, and maintain access to the ill-gotten gains of colonialism. And today, they run around the world trying to convince people that they never actually gained anything, yeah, from colonialism as a nation, and therefore are not. Well, they don't even discuss neocolonialism, but the idea is to suggest that basically them come out to the people in them country, you know, 2 generations ago, and so have nothing to do with anything that is going on at the time. And unfortunately, there are brothers and sisters among us who have championed this narrative as well. You would really, really think that Britain, you know, gained nothing or little or nothing from its exploitation of African people around the world for the better part of 500 years, yeah? But again, let's get into this article, and we're going to explore the dynamics of what has been released, as has been written and broadcasted and promoted and shared by the media company website declassifieduk.org for brothers and sisters who want to access it. And you can find the link to the link to this article in the description to the video. Okay, and so we were discussing this slightly yesterday, you know, what we did, because the topic was not really to exercise dynamics around the coup and so on and so forth, and all those challenges, and even the day before that, yeah, on Zivanai, regular Zivanai slot in relation to the dynamics of Ghana and its economy. Yeah. Now, bear this in mind, brothers and sisters, that whenever these people and their institutions and their governments insert themselves into a nation such as Ghana, they don't do it on a mono, like surface level, kind of one agenda, one strategy type framework. It's always multifaceted. Yes, it's not monofaceted. Okay, in that regard. All right. So as you can see, the article is named "Top Secret Document Exposes UK Role in Ghana Coup." The UK Foreign Office conducted a covert program campaign to help remove Ghana's President Kwame Nkrumah in 1966. Declassified files show. Now, I want brothers and sisters, as I'm going through this, not to stay in 1966 Ghana, but look at global geopolitics in today's world and see the extent to which, identify the extent to which that you have seen the similar tactics being employed in the last 20 years. Yeah, that is really the point of an exercise such as this. Yeah, not just to learn the history. The history is entirely important. Yeah, in fact, you know what? Sorry, one second, family. 1 second. Sorry, give me a second. I need to just take care of something before we continue. Yeah, brothers and sisters, that is really the what we are trying to achieve here. Yeah, because what is the point of us studying history if it doesn't broaden and sharpen our understanding of the present? Thank you, my empress, my queen, baby love, sugar pie, honey butt, sugar pie. All right, and so let me go into some movements here. Okay, so I'm reading from Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. Yeah? Let's set the context for this thing, because I want one of us not just stay in 1966, but bring it up to date. Yeah, Papa Garvey says history is the landmark. This is actually the first words, yeah, in an old book, volume 1. All right, chapter 1. History is the landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. History is the landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. The history of a movement, the history of a nation, the history of a race is the guidepost of that movement's destiny, that nation's destiny, that race's destiny. What you do today that is worthwhile inspires others to act at some future time. And the point I want to emphasize here is the history of a movement, the history of a nation, the history of a race is the guidepost of that movement's destiny, that nation's destiny, that race's destiny. And so through this study of this particular history, we are identifying landmarks, as Papa Garvey puts it, by which we are directed into the true course of life. And so essentially, we're just analyzing the extent to which the global quote-unquote chessboard, so to speak, still remains the same and is still governed by dynamics such as these in order to prepare ourselves and equip ourselves with what we need to be able to deal with such circumstances, brothers and sisters. All right, I hope everyone's with me. And so we're going to get into the article now. By the way, this is an image of the Nkrumah mausoleum. Before the new and improved elements were developed. In fact, I think this was under construction at this time, based upon some of the dynamics that I can see in the picture. All right. So when I say Britain's Foreign Office engaged in covert attacks, quote unquote, covert attacks. That's a quote from the actual declassified documentation against the government of Ghana's president, Kwame Nkrumah. A recently declassified file reveals the objective was to create an atmosphere in which Nkrumah could be overthrown and replaced by a more Western-orientated government. Yeah. So this is actually a quote, yeah? So that part where it says could be overthrown and replaced by a more Western-oriented government. The British had a vested interest in overthrowing Nkrumah because they wanted a government in Ghana that was going to be more amenable to the dictates of Western powers, Western-oriented. This is the program, yes? And when they say Western-oriented, they don't just mean, we like the British government. Britain's politics, we live in a world of political economy. Yeah. So whereas these people like to paint a facade and an illusion about the idea of politics being separate from economics, not in Nagosa. Wherever the British government goes, British corporations goes. Yeah. British intelligence goes. British military goes and armed services goes. This is a multi-dimensional institutional agenda, brothers and sisters. Okay, all right. And so we continue. The file shows the policy was supported by the officials of both conservative and Labour governments alike. For all you Africans out there who think that you are doing a service on behalf of African people by championing the Labour Party, think again. For those Africans who are lazy enough to think that challenging the conservative means that you are doing your bit in the interest of Africans in Britain, think again. The Labour Party is no less a colonizer and neo-colonizer than the Conservative Party. Them just have different strategies about how they go about it, brothers and sisters. All right, let's make that very, very clear. Okay, marked top secret. The report was written on the 6th of May 1966 by the Foreign Office's Cold War Covert Propaganda Unit. So we know that the Cold War is the literal standoff between the Western powers and the Eastern Bloc, which was led by Soviet Russia at the time. Yeah, and so after Mass European War II, even though they were all unified in terms of getting rid of the Nazis, and in fact, Russia took far more casualties than any other European power, including America at that time, basically because Russia was a communist nation, and at the time, America in particular and the Western world in general considered communism to be a threat, an existential threat to its existence. There was a ramping up of hostilities between these two poles in the world. And both sides were seeking to rope in the, let's say, extend their influence across the planet in terms of having other nations under their sphere of influence, okay? The major difference between these two blocks, however, was the fact that the Western world was, in fact, at this particular time, a deeply embedded in the colonial project, yeah, around the globe. And at this time, a lot of the nations that had been under the yoke of Western Europe were now coming out of Western Europe. And so these same powers, Britain in particular, because it was a preeminent colonizer in Europe, was very, very concerned about maintaining its influence, yes, on their former colonies, even in spite of the fact that their former colonies were fighting to come from under their yoke. Okay, so that's the dynamics of what was going on at this time. Yeah, and so just to repeat, marked top secret. The report was written on the 6th of May 1966 by the Foreign Office's Cold War Covert Propaganda Unit. So remember, there is a Cold War Covert Propaganda Unit. So this is an element of British intelligence that is dedicated simply to propagation of British interest, but not openly and overtly, covertly. They're meeting these aims via covert propaganda on a global scale. This is what you call media. Yes, propaganda is transmitted through media, known as the Information Research Department. So the Covert Propaganda Unit is known as the Information Research Department, or IRD. So whenever you hear IRD, subsequently, it means Information Research Department. Nkrumah, a socialist and anti-imperialist revolutionary, was overthrown in a coup on the 24th of February 1966 by high-ranking elements of Ghana's military and police. I should note here that the General Nkrumah, who was the military dictator who took over after Nkrumah, was actually identified for that position at least 2 years prior to the coup taking place by British and American intelligence. He was, pinpointed for that purpose, yeah, already, okay? And there's more that could be said on that, as I'm sure you will appreciate, okay? The coup took place while Nkrumah was traveling to Hanoi to discuss proposals for ending the war in Vietnam. General Joseph Arthur Nkrumah, deemed by British officials to be nice but stupid, literally that's a quote from the documentation, that they deemed General Nkrumah to be nice but stupid, meaning he was pliable, yes, to the dictates of Western power. Replaced Nkrumah as head of the Ghanaian government. The document entitled IRD, which once again means Information Research Department, IRD, the document entitled IRD Operations Against Nkrumah's Government is the most explicit proof, unquote, is the most explicit proof to emerge so far of the UK pursuing regime change against Nkrumah. Yeah, so we know we've known this for a long time via various different other pieces of information, but this is the most stark evidence because it comes from the British government and its intelligence agencies itself. And note the fact that this was only declassified a few days ago. This article was written and published on the 4th of March, just a few days ago. And so, the documents were declassified shortly before that. Okay. Right. A more Western-orientated government. That's the subheading. By the way, brothers and sisters, if you want your comments or questions read out, please at gotkushTV. And maybe, if I'm feeling nice, I will share the link later for those who want to come on and discuss for a bit. Manasti, I'll hold it by time tonight, all right? A more Western-oriented government. Written by Sir John I believe that's U-R-E. I don't know always if I pronounce that, or Uri, I'm not sure. A career British diplomat who worked for the Information Research Department for 3 years. The 6-page report explains the IRD's objectives in Ghana and the types of actions it took to help facilitate the coup. By 1962, it was clear that, this is a quote now from the document, it was clear that President Nkrumah was relying increasingly on communist advice and support within Ghana, while at the same time pursuing a forward policy of subversion in other African countries, or wrote. Now, to explain that slightly, what they mean by forward policy. So at this time, many African nations, many nations in the Caribbean, many nations in Latin America had refused to take sides in the Cold War between the West, as led by America, and the East, as led by Russia. Their idea was the non-aligned movement. We are not aligned with either of UNO. We want to pursue our own path, but not being caught up in the hostilities between these two powerful nations who are currently controlling the global chessboard, so to speak, in terms of political economy. Yes. And so Nkrumah is known to have said, we faced neither East nor West. We faced forward. Yeah. And his preoccupation was with decolonizing the African continent and was fighting against the Cold War being imported into the continent. And that was regardless of how various different governments aligned, let's say, by virtue of the political economy that they were pursuing, policies that they were pursuing in their respective nation. This doesn't mean that you can't have relationships with America or Britain or France. It doesn't mean that you can't have relationships with Russia and all of the different nations that were, influencing or to varying different degrees, aligned with Russia. For example, like China and Russia have always had a very shaky relationship. Probably now is the closest that they've been, but because they were both considered socialists, very much socialists at the time, they were often roped in with each other, in many ways. And so China was a relationship with China was also a cause for concern among many of the Western powers. Okay. So relationship between either of these poles was not a problem, but do not become a satellite for either of them as far as Africa is concerned. That was the idea of the non-aligned movement and the forward policy as far as Africa is concerned. But as Orr has defined it, pursuing a forward policy of subversion in other African countries. Now, bear in mind that even in the context of non-aligned, yes, we're not siding with the West and we're not siding with the East. The fact of the matter is that the West, in the form of most notedly Britain and France at this time, were in fact colonial powers on the continent that Africans were fighting against. Okay, and so the fact of that fight is considered subversion, a subversive agenda by the British. And because that subversive agenda is taking place in the context of Sidem Cold War, they are very concerned about these dynamics. They're very hypersensitive about these dynamics, and therefore you will find that a number of, in fact, practically every anti-colonial movement in every nation was considered to have been influenced by, funded by Russia, Soviet Russia, communists was a term that they threw out consistently, and it still happens to this day. Yeah, and so Africans, enslavement, colonization, for 500 years, but we can't decide for ourselves, so we don't want enslavement and colonization no more. If we come to that conclusion, we must, to whatever degree, all right, be clients of Russia, because Africans don't have the sense and sensibility to fight for freedom on our own accord, okay? And so what happened was, because of the fact that there were nations that were not aligned necessarily with Russia, but were not going to be deterred from engaging with Russia diplomatically and or economically, and there were others who actually received support from Russia in relation to their liberation movement. So all of these varying different dynamics are taking place at the time. Yeah, because of all of those dynamics, Britain and America in particular took very hostile stances, yes, towards anybody who even decided to have a relationship with Russia, whether they were supported by them or not, whether they received funding from them or not. It didn't matter. Just a mere relationship, yes, with Russia was enough to have the machinery of state, i.e. military, i.e. intelligence, i.e. media, yes, i.e. multinational institutions, transnational corporations, etc. The weight of all of these things levied against you. Okay, all right. He added, quote, "The African editorial and special operations sections of the IRD Information Research Department have throughout worked in very close liaison over our treatment of Nkrumah's Ghana. This treatment was aimed at contributing to the creation of an atmosphere in which Nkrumah could be overthrown and replaced by a more Western-oriented government." Yeah. So that's what they're trying to do, create an atmosphere. So that, this is how the British generally went on, right? They didn't just always just go in and they had to create the atmosphere to justify their actions. And the atmosphere, what the key tool in the creation of the atmosphere was propaganda, political, economic, social propaganda. Yes, this is the battle of ideas. So when Nkrumah is overthrown, the world doesn't see it as a problem. And sometimes even Africans ourselves don't see it as a problem because of the level of the propaganda. Okay, all right. Or concludes on a note which is chilling as it is succinct. Quote, "Now that this objective has been realized," remember the article was written on 6th of May 1966, and Nkrumah was overthrown in February of 1966. So this is after the document was written, after Nkrumah had been overthrown. Yeah, so that's what he means when he said, "Now that this objective has been realized, our efforts are being directed at ensuring that the lessons of Nkrumah's flirtation with communism is not lost on other Africans." So they're going to make sure, yes, that this same strategy that they've employed with Nkrumah is going to replicate itself across the African continent. And notice the use of the word flirtation, not adoption, not immersion, flirtation with communism is not lost on other Africans, meaning they want to use Nkrumah as an example. This is what is going to happen to you if no toward the line where we draw across the world that them depend bastions of freedom and democracy. Yes, land of the free and the home of the brave. Free association and all them thing there. The IRD operations against Nkrumah's government. The IRD produced and mailed in thousands of leaflets from fictitious sources, published an average of one hostile article a month, and promoted anti-communist books. All this was undertaken either on an unattributable basis or under the name of fictitious Ghanaian group or movement. So they created facades of groups and movements to create the environment and to give the impression that the nation was turning against Nkrumah. And this had the impact of some elements within the nation actually doing so. Yes. There's more that can be said on this, and a lot of this is detailed in the book White Malice, yeah, by a white lady called Suzanne Williams. Yeah, very informative book, and it speaks about the American, primarily from the American perspective, how they created institutions. Yes, creating institutions of white Americans and Africans in America. Yes, and sent representatives to Ghana for the sake of espionage and spying and economic warfare and political warfare and all kind of different things. It's very interesting. The tactics are very interesting to study. Okay, but it's interesting. Listen here again. All this was undertaken either on an unattributable basis, so you couldn't find the source of where this is coming from, or under the name of a fictitious Ghanaian group or movement. Around 75% of Ghanaians lived in rural areas at the time, and Nkrumah was widely popular with them. Yet, it was not rural opinions that mattered to the IRD, which sought to discredit Nkrumah amongst the influential members of the middle class and the urban population. The IRD mail-in campaigns targeted a detailed list of librarians, teachers, training colleges, university educators, study groups, youth organizations, the press, and police departments. Articles were also published in African Review, a publication secretly run by the IRD. American did as well. They created publications based upon. So there's a lot of organization that were operating based upon CIA funding, yeah, you know, and MI6 funding, and sometimes people like good-meaning people, yeah, you know, clean people, good-hired people, got funding to do writing and works and all kind of different things, but then found out that they were being funded by the CIA, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, all kind of different things did I go on during this period, brothers and sisters. So this publication, African Review, was actually run by British intelligence in Ghana, but it gave the veneer of being an authentic indigenous media organization in the nation. Quote, the first of our covert attacks against one of Nkrumah's advisors was aimed at Kwadwo Addison, director of the Ideological Institute at Winneba. The Ideological Institute at Winneba was an educational institution that was developed by the government, basically to do what it says on the tin, yeah, to train its nation ideologically, just as we are trained ideologically in British schools every day. British schools and universities every day, yes? Or explained in his IRD report. Now notice that the first of the covert attacks was against the Ideological Institute. The Ideological Institute that was dedicated to training the minds of the young. Yes, the youth, the future generation that are going to take up this charge of developing and building the nation of Ghana and forwarding a liberation agenda across the African world. This took the form of a leaflet, quote, leaflet nationally issued by a group of patriotic Ghanaians, warning Nkrumah of Addison's insidious ambitions and communist affiliations, which was mailed to leading personality schools, youth organizations, and the press. So remember that in America, they were, as a part of this Cold War agenda, they had already well established like a witch hunt against, I was going to say against communists, but it wasn't even against communists. It was against anybody who was said to be communist, because some of the people that were accused were not even communists. Yeah, but they were well into this witch hunt vibration. So they had created this witch hunt energy, and were now trying to spread that witch hunt energy around the rest of the world and putting out the feelers to see the extent to which it would take hold. Yes. Leading personality schools. Blah, blah, blah. The IRD's leaflet spearing Addison was soon followed by another attacking Kofi Batsa, the Secretary General of the Pan-African Journalists Union. And the idea is that because, you know, being a communist justifies weaponizing the machinery of state against you. That is the idea, yeah? And so African leaders who were prepared to terrorize their nations based upon these dictates were well-funded and well-supported, yes, in this regard. None of them were promoted as dictators in British and Western media. They were supported and funded and kept in power, many of them for over 30 years, from the 1960s until the 1990s. Okay, two examples of that are Felix Houphouët-Boigny in Côte d'Ivoire and Joseph Mobutu in the Congo. Okay, all right. From 1952 to 1957, Nkrumah led his country to formal independence from the British Empire, the first African country to do so. He became Ghana's first post-independence prime minister, and in 1960 was elected president. And that's always a mistake people make, and I'm sure I make it as well, that he was actually prime minister from 1957 to 1960, and then became president after 1960. All right, and that had to do with removing Ghana from the Commonwealth, yes, and removing Elizabeth II as the ceremonial head of state, okay? So becoming a republic in that sense. One of the most outspoken proponents of Pan-Africanism, Nkrumah co-founded the Organization of African Unity in 1963, which became the African Union in 2002. As President Nkrumah granted safe haven to activists and resistance fighters from across the continent, as we discussed yesterday, and provided financial and military support for Africans engaged in wars of liberation, notably in Portuguese colonies of Guinea-Bissau, Mozambique, and Angola. Yeah, and so bearing in mind that as well as the French and the Portuguese were the most diehard, colonizers, they were looking to hold on to the colony at any cost. That's why many of the last nations to have been quote unquote made independent were those that were colonized by Portugal. Okay, those that were colonized by like Angola. So Mozambique was up into the 80s before it managed, after a military resistance fight in that nation. Okay, but again, Nkrumah gave support materially and otherwise to all of these different nations, the freedom fighting forces in all of these different nations. It's necessary to note as well that in particular as it relates to Mozambique and Angola, because they're in Southern Africa, that the Americans, the British, the Portuguese and the French were supporting mercenaries, that were coming out of and aligned with the apartheid regime in South Africa and the white minority rules, so-called, in Zimbabwe. So that's necessary to note as well, that these white power was very much aligned with itself and each other in terms of its colonization. So even as Britain and France were decolonizing or being pushed to decolonize, they were also backing white racist government in South Africa and its counter against the resistance movements that were firing up all over Southern Africa, to the point whereby mercenaries from America and Israel and others were in all throughout Southern Africa, supporting the nation of South Africa's apartheid regime military incursion into the rest of Southern Africa. All right. And Nkrumah's government also pursued a more confrontational approach towards the white supremacist regimes in Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and South Africa, which the UK found to be problematic due to the substantial level of trade it conducted with South Africa. So that speaks for itself. Yes, but again, just to highlight the fact, Nkrumah's government also pursued a more confrontational approach towards white supremacist regimes in Rhodesia and South Africa. Sorry, yeah, what was then called Rhodesia and South Africa. Okay, and the UK found that very, very problematic. Internal Foreign Office documents refer to Nkrumah's anti-colonial agenda as subversive activities. Yeah, and this is a term that they still use nowadays. Subversive activities, you know. any movement that black people have, good, bad, or indifferent, as long as it challenges the status quo, it's subversive activities. Okay, that's another one that them use, and yeah. A series of covert attacks. This is the subheading now. UK propaganda efforts against Nkrumah and the governing Convention People's Party, that was Nkrumah's party's name, accelerated substantially in the last few years of his government. In June 1964, Prime Minister Sir Alec Douglas Home drafted a minute of a meeting asking, quote, "Can we not leak some detailed facts about Nkrumah's actions through channels which could not be brought home to us?" Unquote. So basically, leak the information, but just make sure the fact that we leak the information, it won't come back upon we, it's never discovered. Yeah. The Commonwealth Relations Office, CRO, agreed that it, quote, that it would be appropriate to launch a series of covert propaganda attacks against Nkrumah's communist advisors, which could be mailed in to Ghana from other African and European countries. The 1960s was a period of crisis for Ghana. Nkrumah survived multiple assassination attempts. And that's one thing about Nkrumah's legacy that people often don't flag up. Yes, that before he was overthrown, there were a number of assassination attempts against him. They were trying to take his life. Yeah, that is a fact that many people fail to take into consideration, deliberately so, I must say. Yeah, the 1960s, Nkrumah survived multiple assassination attempts, including bomb attacks between 1962 and 1964. Dozens of civilians, including at least 12 school children, were killed in a series of bombings in 1963, and over 20 people were killed in 1964 during a CPP rally. And if for those who have done your due diligence in terms of studying Nkrumah's life, you will know that they used the word he became a bit paranoid towards the latter part of his presidency as a result of these things. Yeah, there's one story about the fact that one time he didn't really want to travel from his house to the government house because he feared that there might be a bomb attack. And his major source of pain is that even though these attacks were meant for him, they were killing people around him. Yeah, including school children. One of the first ones was that there was a bomb that was placed in a bouquet of flowers and given to a little schoolgirl to give to Nkrumah on like one of his tours around the nation. But the bomb exploded before the girl gave it to Nkrumah, so she perished, yeah, as a result. And that's known to be a CIA operation. Okay, and so that's a factor that we have to. This is something that we have to take into consideration in terms of Nkrumah's tenure as president at this time. All right, so we're talking about, you know, many people were killed as the nation was being bombed while they tried to get at Nkrumah. Although Nkrumah remained popular with large swathes of the population, his government became increasingly authoritarian, particularly against its critics. In 1964, he was declared president for life, and Ghana became a one-party state, banning all opposition parties. Quote, about every 2 years, we are asked to help Ghanaian plotters to get rid of Nkrumah. Britain's High Commission in Accra, Arthur Schelling, wrote in a 1965 top secret document. Although these coup plots dated at least as far back as 1961, at no point does it seem that the British informed Nkrumah about any of them, even though Ghana was a member of the Commonwealth. So again, the British knew about the plots that were internal, external, as far as whoever it was, yes, whether they were in Ghana or outside of Ghana, they were aware of them and did not inform him of them, even though he's a member of the Commonwealth of Nations. Subheading, the last stage of imperialism. Orr's report also shows how Nkrumah's book, as we mentioned yesterday, Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, published in 1965, infuriated the British and led to them escalating their attacks. It, quote, it was only after the publication of Nkrumah's book on neocolonialism in October 1965 that we were advised by the CRO that we need no longer be inhibited by Ghana's membership of the Commonwealth. Yeah, the gloves come off, no holds bar. He added, we consequently began to include more material on Ghana and Nkrumah himself in our normal output. The main article still being the main vehicle still being the African Review. In his book, Nkrumah blasted the exploitation of African nations by Western governments, intelligence agencies, especially the CIA, financial and investment companies, oil and mining corporations, and aid agencies such as the IMF and the World Bank. Ask yourself, why were they so afraid of this book? What was it about this book that ramped up the urgency to get rid of this man? Remember, Bunchy Anyete said, the book was prophetic. Him say, him read the book. When he first read the book, him have to go back to the page where it said, when the book published, him say, as him a read the book, him have to go back to discover if I really 1965 this book got published, because I can't believe say it's so accurate in what it has described from 1965 till now. Marcus Garvey says so. In his book, Nkrumah blasted the exploitation of African nations by Western governments, intelligence agencies, especially the CIA, financial and investment companies, oil and mining corporations, and aid agencies such as the IMF and the World Bank. Quote, the essence of neocolonialism is that the state, which is subject to it, is in theory independent. This is what Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah says now. The essence of neocolonialism is that the state, which is subject to it, is in theory independent and has all the outward trappings of international sovereignty, Nkrumah explained. In reality, however, its economic system and thus its political policy is directed from outside. Again, in reality, its economic system and thus its political policy is directed from outside. Its economic system and thus its political policy is directed from outside. Its economic system, thus its political policy, is directed from outside. This is the reason why so much of the policy of Britain and America and the IMF and the World Bank and so on and so forth during this period up until now has been about maintaining and ensuring access of foreign corporations, multinational companies, and transnational institutions to African economies. They want to ensure that their influence is felt in a FIWI economy, because they know that with a substantial amount of influence in the economy, they can control and direct the political policies. And the sad reality is that for the most part, they have been entirely successful in this agenda. Very successful in this agenda. There is not an economy in the black world that is substantively directed by the interests of the masses of the people in the nation. Challenge me on that point if you so wish, brothers and sisters. I'm including Zimbabwe in that. Yes, I'm including Zimbabwe in that. And I'll explain why if you ask. While the role of the CIA in the 1966 coup has been covered, and when they say covered, they don't mean covered, they mean it's been written about previously. Britain's role has remained more opaque. We don't really know where Britain did that go on with. And I'm saying that even with this revelation, it's still opaque. Operation Legacy. It was known the British opposed Nkrumah, preferred that he be replaced, and engaged in covert propaganda against his government. This fact was more recently detailed by Susan Williams, the author of the well-researched White Malice, the CIA's covert recolonization of Africa. It's a very informative book. Again, takes advantage of recently declassified documents from the American government and American intelligence. Yeah, that book was published only a few years ago. Okay, so it's relatively up to date in terms of the information that is out there right now. Yeah. You can also find it on audiobook for those who use audiobook streaming platforms. Okay, the post-coup military junta delighted British diplomats who described it as strongly anti-communist. Yeah, so the government of General Nkrumah was a strongly anti-communist one, and US officials were equally pleased and cheerfully characterized it as almost pathetically pro-Western. Almost pathetically pro. They don't even respect their puppets. Right? You think you're going to get respect from these people by being a puppet? They don't even respect UNO. Yeah, that's a message for you black conservative industrial complex parrots. Yeah? When they're behind them laugh off the one, pathetic. Yeah, pathetically pro-Western. They can peons and serfs and minions. Bumba. Sir John Orr would go on to serve as British ambassador to Cuba, Brazil, and Sweden, and died last year. The man is dead last year. You know, the wicked, you know, I did a session last year now when Kissinger is the wicked die all. Yeah, wicked die all. That concludes the reading of this article, brothers and sisters. Once again, if you want to read it yourself, come back to it. The link is in the description to the video. The link is in the description to the video. Right. Let me see what we miss now. Sure, there's riveting conversation taking place in the chat right now. If you would like a comment or a question read out, brothers and sisters, please at gotkushTV. And I apologize, brothers and sisters. I think like over the last couple of shows, I may have missed one or two comments that had at gotkushTV. So forgive me if you are one such comment. I sincerely apologize for my blunder and oversight in that regard. However, feel free to super chat, yeah, if you would like to up the noticeability of your comment or question. There's only one comment that I'm seeing so far, but feel free to at gotkushTV now if you would like your comment and or your question read out. No, that's two now. Let's see. Mr. Look, brothers and sisters, once again, get your comments in at gotkushTV, and I want to see. We'll do a vote. Yeah, if I get 5 Black Power fists in the chat, telling me to open up the lines, I will open up the lines. Yeah, all right, and share the link. All right, if there's 5 Black Power fists in the chat. And I mean 5 from one somebody. No, try it. I mean 5 Black Power fists from 5 different somebody. All right. I'll get cute with that. Okay. Let me see. Then I'll put out the link and open up the line for people to come through. All right. So you have to give me the Black Power fist in the chat. I want to see 5 of them from 5 different somebody, and they will come through. Okay. To get to the comments. Brother State Imhotep says, no, at gotkushTV, there are Americans who believe their nation is benevolent that people are asking to be occupied by them. True. That is the propaganda. That propaganda was so abundant. Yeah, me not know if uno member, you know, the heady levels of propaganda warfare that was being waged in the early 2000s when America and Britain decided to spearhead this war upon terrorism. And them said that the Iraqi people want with them and want win them nation. Them come out and ball for it. Yeah, man, them want to come bomb them into democracy. That them depend, yeah. You have to give it to them. They're very effective in their propaganda. And one day we'll do a session on the history of Western propaganda, yeah, as a tool of war. And it's necessary to emphasize that Western propaganda as a tool of war is not distinct from the development of media in the West as a whole. You understand? Note that a lot of the strategies and tactics that are used in Western media production, whether it's a sitcom, a documentary, and a commercial, advertising for television, whatever it is, many of the tactics and strategies that are used were developed as a result of research funded for the purpose by the CIA and the MI6 and the rest of them. Anthony in Grenada says, Abibi to me, Abibi Fahodiya, blessings, my brother over there in the island of Grenada. Scattered Minds in the building, big up yourself, King. He says, this is big news, although we know what they on already. Blessed for the breakdown at gotkushTV. Give thanks, my brother. And you don't know, say it's always an honor to have you joining I with us. Give thanks in Azid. All right, brothers and sisters. There's a couple more comments that I've noted already. There are any more, so I will get to them shortly. So just stay tuned. Right, my soon come. Okay. There's a couple more left. I'm trying to do something right now. Hold on there. Soon forward. Okay. All right, brothers and sisters, we are in the building and we are reading the next comment that has been at gotkushTV. At gotkushTV, Mozambique independence 1974. You're correct, my brother. I said the 80s. Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, I think Angola 75, Guinea-Bissau 74. Yeah. Let me see now. Let me see if there's any more at gotkushTV. Once again, brothers and sisters, if you would like your comment read out, please at gotkushTV so I can differentiate it from between, you know, things that want to be read out and just general conversation in the chat. We're gonna scroll down again now. James O tried it. James O tried to put the 5. Okay, so we've got all on there. 1, set up Black Power Office. 2, set up Black Power Office. 3, set up Black Power Office. If I get 2 more Black Power Office, I will share the link and open up the lines for ones to come through. If we not get my 2 more Black Power Office from 2 more Smaddy, then we now open up the lines around here. Anthony says, before the CIA, there was the OSS. And I am not sure what the OSS stands for. Remind me, please, my brother, or inform me, because I feel like I've heard OSS before, but I'm not sure. Yeah, give me the meaning behind the acronym. You might be educating me tonight, and I give thanks for all the education. You don't know. Yeah, the film on the history of the CIA, you know, which now I'm yet to watch it. What the film name again? I believe it stars Matt Damon. Wait, name again? Give me the name of that film that's supposed to that's about the history of the CIA. Imhotep says same Subgot Kush TV, we need to be liberated. Yeah, you know, yeah. That's what the thing go, you know what I'm saying? Any more at Got Kush TV? So this is entirely important, brothers and sisters, you know what I'm saying? We just have to know that these are the people that, you know, we are up against. Their tactics have not changed, their strategies have not changed, and it doesn't matter what ideology they come to you with. It doesn't matter what the talking points are. It doesn't matter what the language they use. Yes, you know, the different language, the pretty language, you know, pretty language. Yeah, the man was the pretty language. Yeah, it's the aim is to maintain freedom power at our expense. Always. And it's time we get to know that, brothers and sisters. Melaman asks, was Nkrumah ever democratically voted out or delayed elections? No. Yeah, no. No, that's neither of those happened. The reason, one of the reasons why, a couple of reasons why, and that was, to be clear, that was effectively nullified by the fact that the one-party state was declared in 1964. However, it's also necessary to note, which the article didn't note, is that the idea of a one-party state was put before the people, and there was a referendum about whether Ghana should become a one-party state, and the arguments for and against were heard in the Ghanaian parliament, and so it was a vote basically, and people voted for the one-party state, and so therefore it was instituted. People tend to leave that part out of the story as well, and that's one thing. The other thing was about the fact that it was clear, as you've read from the article, and Nkrumah has a letter that he wrote to the American embassy in 1964, I believe it was, where he was basically complaining about the fact that the American embassy seems to be really a front for the CIA, who do their best to cause fragmentation and destabilization within the nation. And this is the debate that still takes place among Pan-Africanists. Yeah, the party parliamentary democracy, yes, system, and the extent to which it is used as a weapon of Western imperialism, white supremacy, and white power. Okay, and the extent to which a nation nations coming out of our experience can afford to play with the Western two-party political system. Firstly, on the basis of the fact that, generally speaking, the political spectrum in that particular system is not designed to cater for our needs. And secondly, because of the fact that stability is one of the political and economic stability is one of the necessary components for a nation such as one that is decolonizing when it's developing itself. Yeah, and so effectively, quote unquote, elections become a facade and distraction for covering Western intrigue. And also, because elections cost money and considerable resources and so on and so forth, blah blah. Most nations on the planet, yeah, when they go through a revolutionary process of whatever kind, do not immediately jump on let's have an election. Yeah, I forget the number of years, all right, before an election was called after the American Revolution, but it was a significant number of years. Yes. They didn't jump in and have an election in 1776. That never go on. Britain, when it began to move to a more parliamentary system, elections took a number of years, and I think decades, yeah, to happen in France, the same thing. I'm saying, all these, and so what happens is, and then therefore the difference between these nations is not which ones have a one-party state or not, because there were many nations in Africa that had one-party states that were supported and funded and aided and abetted by the West. So the difference here between who they were against and for was not the issue of a one-party state, They funded more one-party states than they overthrew, because they were in their interest. That is the difference. Yeah, that is a difference. All right. All right. Looks like we're now open up the lines today. You know what I'm saying? So any further questions, please at gotkushTV. I will take them. We'll give you another 5 minutes, but give thanks for the reading and the reasoning thus far. You know what I'm saying? Give thanks, brothers and sisters. But again, it's necessary for us to note these dynamics. You know, we have to understand the history, as Papa Garvey said. For those who were not here at the beginning, yeah, the first words from Papa Garvey in Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, Volume 1. History is the landmark by which we are directed into the true course of life. The history of a movement, the history of a nation, the history of a race is the guidepost of that movement's destiny, that nation's destiny, that race's destiny. What you do today that is worthwhile inspires others to act at some future time. And that last sentence goes for us as those who stand on the legacy of Marcus Mosiah Garvey, Asaja for Kwame Nkrumah, etc., etc., etc. Yes. And it also goes for the example set by the Western imperialists. Yeah, there are those of us who are inspired by the legacies of our freedom fighting ancestors, and there are those of us who are inspired by the dictates of colonizers and neocolonizers, and following the footsteps of those who were puppets of colonizers and neocolonizers. So yeah, that is the vibration there. That is the vibration there. So okay. And so as brother Bunchy Anyete was saying the other day, a lot of this plays around with the terms like democracy, because democracy is whatever them say them want it to be at whatever point in time. Yeah. So you know, Lumumba was not democratic, but Mobutu was for 30 years whilst he terrorized the nation. You see what I'm saying? So democracy and terms like those are euphemisms, yeah, for allied with the West. When they say that a nation is a democracy, what they really mean is it's our ally. It has nothing to do with whether it has elections or not. Yeah. And the other game that they've run on us, and I think this is what Bunchy was saying, and I am slightly different from Bunchy in my sensibilities around this question. I think we should do away with the term as a marker for our political agenda. The reason why I say that, or we should invest so much in a redefinition of it that when we say it, we will not understand what we mean. Because when it comes to propaganda, literal definitions are not what matters. When it comes to propaganda, associated definitions is what matters. Yes. When you look in the English language and how the English language operates, you have standard dictionaries, but then you have dictionaries of law and dictionaries of politics and dictionaries of economics. Why? Because the literal definition may take on a different meaning within a specific context, within a school of thought, within a particular institutional framework, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And so one of the games that they run on us is to make democracy synonymous with the two-party parliamentary system, if that makes sense. So you are not a democracy unless you have two parties at the helm of your governmental infrastructure, and one of them is what the West refers to as conservative, and the other is what the West refers to as liberal in the political sense now. Yes, you know what I'm saying, and all these things. That's that they want to keep you within that framework. Yeah. Whereas the literal definition of democracy is rule of the people. It has nothing to do with having two different political parties that people vote for annually, or every 4 years, and them kind of thing. That is not what democracy means, literally speaking. But they are able, through their political and economic machinations, again, control your economic policy, therefore they dictate your political policy. They're able to make it so that whenever we say democracy, what we are referring to is a replica of Westminster, of Washington, and of Paris. That we all become descendants of Greece and Rome through the use of one word. Through the use of one word. Interesting. We'll be back after these messages.
Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theater of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024. We welcome activist, organizer, and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding, Ghana's Political Theatre, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every fourth Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed.
All right, brothers. I think I've got my five power fists from 5 different smuddy. So I'm going to share the link. I was actually going to dead the vibration, but we'll continue. So the link is in the chat, brothers and sisters. The link is in the chat. So yeah, feel free to come through. I'll say from now, I'm not gonna spend no whole time up here. All right, you know, we put in overtime this week, but more than willing to engage with brothers and sisters tonight. All right, so feel free to click the link, brothers and sisters. We're engaging in some conversation tonight about our reading. Now we're not entertaining conversations about any other subjects tonight. This is not open house. It's a specific topic in relation to the article that we read out earlier, which is entitled "The Top Secret Document Exposes UK Role in Ghana Coup." Top secret document exposes UK role in Ghana coup. Brothers and sisters, feel free to click the link. The link is in the chat. If nobody comes through in the next 2 minutes, I will conclude the show. So feel free to click the link right here now, and we will take your contribution. If you would like to still have your question or comment read out, you can feel free to do so, and we will be glad to take your comment or question in the chat also. Yao, your devices are not connecting, okay? That's the only reason why I haven't brought you through. So I hope that you can resolve that. My namesake, I'm also a Yao. You know what I'm saying? I'm also a Yao. We said no, African insurgent.
Yeah, man. Big up Shaka, panel, and channel, right? So it was a very nice show. I did see that article on social media or something like that, like being shared, and I was like, wow, you know. And in the chat, I was wondering as well, like, cause they do this all the time, you know, them come out and them say, you know, 30 years later, yes, we did this and that. bad thing. And yes, you are right. You know, you are right to be suspicious of us, but it's like, what are the things that they're not declassifying or that they're not saying, you know? You can only imagine.
Yes.
It's crazy. But yeah, about yesterday though, some of the educational points I did disagree with. My thing with the education, I think when it comes to our states, like, you know, black states and thing from Jamaica, Caribbean, Africa and stuff, is like, I wouldn't say necessarily that it's a weird thing. It's like the courses are there for the people to do. I wouldn't say it's necessarily that the courses are not equipping us with the skills to do what we need to do, so much as people don't necessarily have an interest in the right courses to pursue. And so, and a lot of it as well is, I guess, structural. So, you know, funding and, you know, the welfare of the people sometimes prohibit them from even getting to the point to where them can take advantage of the courses. So there's that obstacle as well. But I think the people that get to the point where them get the accreditation that they need, a lot of the time they're from the upper class. And really, my experience dealing with a lot of these people, them lazy, you know, they're spoiled, them don't really have much interest in actually developing our nations. So it's not that our engineers and lawyers, other professionals aren't good enough, because when they migrate to other countries, they're proficient, you know, and them doing all the complex stuff you could imagine. You know, the last company I was working for, basically like the head of the engineering was a Jamaican, a Rasta man, you get me, with dreadlocks and all of that. So
yeah,
I think the stuff is there, but a lot of times it's structural, and then the class dynamic that, you know, the upper class people just tend to not have any interest in building the country.
I don't disagree with anything that you just said. So I'm wondering what is it you heard yesterday that made you disagree?
Oh yeah, it's something I did hear something like that. The education we're being given, not some sentiment of the sort, like the education we're being given is like not beneficial, or like it's leading us down the wrong line or something like that. You get what I'm saying? But I think it's just people a lot of the times pursue the wrong things, you know, and a lot of that, like I say, is structural, you know.
I take your point. I don't remember saying that. I don't remember Auntie Affiong saying that, and I don't remember Bunchy saying that. I do remember us talking in the context of colonization and Nkrumah's and what Nkrumah's investment in education actually meant. Yeah. No, maybe there was something along that, but I don't think the issue was the courses and the quality of the courses, for example, engineering. It was more the context for the education. Yeah. I'll come back to that point in a second. But the point about education, as far as the quality of the education, what I remember was being said is that when you're looking at a colonized nation, the education system is by definition substandard, because they're not looking to educate the population. So many of all of our nations came to independence with a certain level of population that was undereducated. Like if you look at literacy rates, yeah, in formerly colonized nations at the point of becoming independent, generally speaking, very, very high. And so there's not enough of a critical mass of expertise in a lot of different areas to be able to delve into the development of the nation. So one of the first things that you have to do is invest heavily in education, adult and child, to up the skills capital, so to speak, yeah, of the nation. So it wasn't necessarily absolutely a contemporaneous. At the same time, there are elements of that I might agree with in modern day circumstances. But for example, I would say that two examples of this that are stark to me is the extent to which Marcus Garvey is not a main feature of Jamaican education system, and a sense of Kwame Nkrumah is not a main feature of Ghana's education system. And that's a woeful inadequacy as far as I'm concerned. At the same time, I would agree that the skills that we come out, the education system is relatively well disposed to produce doctors and nurses and engineers that do function well and elsewhere in the world. And the issue there is not so much the education system itself, but the infrastructure in the nation that is not able to provide jobs and so on and so forth for its own citizenry. Yeah? You and I know the thing already. Over half of people in the world that identify as Jamaican don't live in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? You know, and the same goes for practically every other Caribbean island. Yeah, for these reasons. Yeah, me have family member them. They're qualified nurses. Them can't work in Jamaica because there's not enough hospitals and other infrastructure in the nation. So I would agree with practically everything that you said. Yeah, we don't really have a disagreement there. But what I'm gonna do though, I'm gonna listen back to what we did say yesterday and come back to you because maybe I'm missing something. All right, that we need to clarify. But give thanks for your contribution. Feel free to stay where you are, African Insurgent. I'm gonna come back to you. I believe for the first time on the panel, we're going to Grenada. Well, not for the first time we're going to Grenada, but we're going to Grenada to meet Anthony. So greetings, my brother Anthony.
Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, man?
I can't complain, my brother. Good to hear your voice.
Oh man, it's a joy to be on the show, man. And big up to your father too, man, because I've been following him for a long time.
I'll give time, my brother. Give time.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, man, miseducation is a powerful weapon, man. You know what I'm saying? As far as what y'all was just talking about, you know, like with the educational systems in our countries that have been colonized,
yes,
you know, that miseducation system as well as the education system is a powerful thing, man. You know, that's what Steve Biko was talking about, the mind of the colonized. You know what I'm saying? As far as that the educational system that the colonizers left behind. But I just I just wanted to kind of like touch because I wanted to touch back on when you talking about Kwame Nkrumah and the British, you know, being complicit in overthrow. I mean, I think it was open news, man. You know, yeah, they had secret documents, but I think everybody knew they was trying to do it because of the things that when he became the power. You know, like one of the first things he wanted to do, one of the most important pivotal things that I think Dr. Nkrumah was trying to do, man, that really got onto those people under their skin, when he and Patrice Lumumba started linking up. You know what I'm saying? Because Dr. Nkrumah knew one thing: the Congo is the heart of Africa.
Yeah,
it's the heart of Africa. With all of the vast mineral wealth, and, you know, the resource, everything, we know what the Congo has. It's the richest piece of real estate in the world.
Yeah.
And to have that big piece of real estate under a Pan-Africanist leadership, that means that's the end of y'all shit. You know what I'm saying? Of exploitation of Africa. You know what I'm saying? That's the end of y'all mess. Y'all can't come and do what y'all want to do. So we had to destabilize Congo, and they had to overthrow a brilliant brother like Dr. Nkrumah, man. I'll leave it right there. I'll knock off, man.
Yes, King. Give thanks for your contribution, my brother. You know, one of the interesting facts about that secret agreement, we mentioned it yesterday, that the Sergeant for Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba signed a secret agreement for Lumumba and Congo to join the Union of African States. Yeah, this agreement was signed in 1960. And the capital of the Union was slated to be in Congo. Yeah, that's a very important factor. The capital of the Union was slated to be in Congo. Okay, and that would have given Patrice Lumumba and the people of Congo a significant position of power within that whole union. Yeah, and Nkrumah agreed to this. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it's a fact that we need to know. Yao, your devices seem to still not be connecting. You might have to go out and come back in. Yeah, you might have to go out and come back in. Brothers and sisters, the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat. And if nobody else comes through in the next couple minutes, I'm going to lock off the stream. And just as I've said that, somebody come through. Greetings, Setimate. How you do?
Please, can I be clearly heard?
Yes, King.
Peace and Pan-African power to everybody under the sound of my voice. I really just came to show a little bit of support, but just reading over the title of the show and thinking back on some of the things that we've discussed, it really is very important to, how shall I phrase this? for us to spread as much information as we have about the crimes of the 20th century. Because there's a community of African Americans of which I am a part. And I asked a question in one of the voice chats, like, how can you name me 3 invasions or I can't remember, interventions that the United States has had within the Western Hemisphere? And I specifically use the Western Hemisphere because it's close to home. I would think it would be more on your mind. They couldn't name one. Not one of them could name even one. You dig? And so it's really, sometimes I get kind of lost in the fact that I learned some of this information early in my life. So it's kind of grandfathered into me. I understand why we look at some of these European nations with the kind of aversion and the kind of mistrust that we look at them with. But I think maybe a lot of people in the audience, especially if you're new to Pan-Africanism, if you're new to Black consciousness, we kind of take it, we may take it for granted that they know some of these things already in our boy. Because I was extremely surprised to know that they didn't know not even one. They couldn't think of even one. You know, so maybe I wanted to maybe encourage that gotkushTV maybe does a little bit more of those. You know, this is the crimes of the British Empire in Africa during the 20th century, just during the 20th century. This is the crimes of the French Empire during the 20th century. You know.
I take your suggestion. Yo. And yeah, I think I'm probably gonna use it with that title, Crimes of the 21st Century. So the 20th century. It's a good title, you know. I take your point. And as I'm gearing up to do some Patreon only content, or at least Patreon first content, that might be one suggestion that I use it that way. People will still get it at some point. But you know, we want to take care of our patrons as well. So thank you for that. But I agree with you absolutely. When I was in Ghana, my brother Bonchi Anyete, who joined us yesterday, he was saying that, you know, there's a lot of trauma that we have experienced as African people. That, you know, we know as far as Ghana is concerned, because of the return of Africans from the diaspora, people understand that, you know, something called slavery happened and it's traumatic for Africans to return to the continent. But because he said that a lot of us are very, very detached from our own history, we are living with traumas. He said we, as in Africans born and raised and have parentage from Ghana, living with trauma that we are not aware of because we are detached and not knowledgeable enough about our history. So he speaks about the British bombardment of Accra, yes, and the extent to which many Ghanaians, Ga, because the Ga are predominate in the city of Accra, are unaware of this, yes, and the role that it played in their development as a nation of Ga people. You know, so yeah, it's an essential point. It's an essential point, and the powers that be, as far as white power is concerned, have a vested interest in us not knowing this history so that we don't organize against them, having learned the lessons of that history. Yao, having found it difficult to get on the panel, has sent in a message. So I'm going to read this message. Thank you for trying to persevere, Yao. We appreciate you. Yao says, in bed with baby sleeping. I completely understand that vibration there. Been there, my brother. Happy to text and hopefully connect with Mike later if possible. Thank you for the knowledge sharing, my brother. I am a brother product of Portuguese colonization in West Africa, Angola, and Sao Tome. Okay, Principe. I stopped over in Sao Tome once on my way to Ghana. On a European perspective, a black individual do not have any access to the portal of his one identity. We are raised to blend among them since day one. EU system behaviors, democratic right, are limiting our diaspora frontline. Yeah, you know, serious thing. And there was something that you said I wanted to highlight. Where you said that we are raised to blend among them since day one. It's a very powerful point, you know. That we're literally socialized to make it our our aspiration to be amongst them, to assimilate with them, and to assimilate them into us. That's serious thing, you know. We can't underestimate the seriousness of this thing, yeah. That's a serious thing to blow out. All right. So give thanks, y'all, for persevering and sending your comment in, even though you couldn't get through physically. And hopefully we are able to hear your voice in future sessions, brothers and sisters. This is the last chance. If I don't see nobody come through on the panel in the next 2 minutes, you can feel free to well, we are going to wrap up the show. And if I've missed one of your comments as well, says there is a philosophical and analytical education which is lacking to direct us towards liberation ideology. Yeah, that is it. I think that's that's directed at Melaman. So feel free to answer Melaman if you want to. So Imhotep says there's a philosophical and ideological education which is lacking to direct us towards liberation ideologies from youth. Melaman.
Yeah, man. So I did see that, and funny enough, you had said some things to which kind of is very similar, and I agree to that. So that kind of makes me see how that statement that I think I heard could be true. That's one of the ways where it could be and is true, right? Where the education system itself don't lead to a way of thinking for the people where they would try to be truly independent, you know, that the Jamaicans really want to be American more than anything else, you know. So before colonial days, you'd have the Black British in Jamaica, were more British than the British. Now Jamaicans more American than the Americans, right? So that type of problem still persists, and it made me think further to Selassie book about selected speeches, cause the education segment of that book I found very, very powerful, you know. In that section, him speak about the importance of when you send the people out to be educated by foreign people, that them retain them culture and I guess them loyalty to, you know, to them culture and society as a whole. So people get the education, and because them don't have any allegiance truly to the state, them come back and essentially them don't really want to develop the country. You know, as I said before, them really have more of an interest to leave. But one other thing that, cause Seth Himotep did bring up a topic for you. One topic I think you should probably look at is the new age racism that we're seeing online nowadays and in the media, where if a black person kind of accuses or identifies something as racist, it's like a Una reverse. Them use that to say the black person is racist. You get me? So it's like if you say this or that is racist, just by bringing up race in any way at all as a black person, they spin it on you nowadays to say you're racist. And I think it's like the new way of being racist nowadays is to do that.
100%. It relates to what I was dealing with on Tuesday with the Black Conservative Industrial Complex. That's a major tactic in the Black Conservative Industrial Complex, yeah. And you know, I'm gonna do a part 2 to that on Tuesday actually, so stay tuned for that. We're gonna delve into something. I'm gonna call it Confessions, yeah, of the Mercenary Intellectual. Yeah, Black Conservative Industrial Complex. All right, so do stay tuned for that. It's gonna be an interesting one, because remember I said that they're really just mouthpieces for white power. I'm gonna evidence that on Tuesday very directly. All right, so do stay tuned for that, brothers and sisters.
If I could
go ahead.
I think it was African Insurgent who yesterday brought to the point I'm about to address. But if it's not, I apologize to whoever was in the audience who said it. There was a question asked about the efficacy of traditional rulership systems and how it interacts.
That was Talawa who asked that question.
Okay, right. And the efficacy, or maybe the how malleable they are, how effective they are, how compatible they are with modern democracies, and or how we can use them in the present day towards our liberation, right? You and I have had a conversation about exploring the the unwritten constitutions of these traditional rulership systems, and I really like that. Also, is a really I think valuable concept to bring forward to the African diasporic audience, right? Because at least when I can't speak for everybody else, but when I was a child, when you hear about African kings, you hear about African chiefs, and that they're savage, and blah, 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 they're lawless and barbaric and blah, blah, blah. But if we can establish that there are long established, effective, historic constitutions, let's say unwritten constitutions and systems of law under which these peoples would have existed for the longest while, I think it would be very valuable in changing people's perspective of traditional rulers in Africa.
Definitely. There's two other books I can cite on that actually. Two books actually literally use the term constitution. One is Pre-Colonial Black Africa by Sheikh Anta Diop, and the other is Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. Yeah, both actually do some work on that. And so I agree with you. I think that in this day and age, because a lot of us are Western educated in the legal sense, a lot of us understand things through that lens. We're good if people who are experts in how to construct legal theories can delve into that some more as a specific area of study. And I don't know that it exists on that level, although there is some good work that is doing. Oh, yo, you was just here and now you're dropping off. Okay, you're back.
Yeah,
Greetings,
everyone's
brother.
back.
Yes, sir.
Blessings. One love.
One love, King.
My first time in actually interacting with any brother around the world regarding my diaspora journey. Took me a while. I tried to text as fast as I could, but Mrs. Was a lovely one. The queen, she stayed in the bed with the little lion now, and I'm able here to sneak into the kitchen and say hi. And camera is important. You are not alone, brother. So I wanted to show my face instead to use the mask before just type it. So one love to you all. Much appreciated, my brother.
Thank you for coming.
Hope that I can jump in the conversation. I don't want to interrupt to anyone.
No. If you're not interrupting,
thank you. One love to you, bro.
If you have something to add now, feel free to add it, my brother. Any thoughts, feelings, and/or questions?
Yeah. Hey, mate. There's so much to say. Because the world is a big place, and Africa, it's a big chunk of what is going on in the world, and people focus. Especially, I was born and raised European. I'm a Portuguese by passport, living in Bristol, UK. So it's like I'm experienced two parties, like you were saying in the chat. The conservative one in England,
yes,
and the puppet liberal in Portugal. None of them I can relate with, but I was born since day one here, raised among them, to talk like them, to express like them, to eat like them, and it's an identity deconstruction. Is a journey that is taking me years, my brother, and that's why I have almost a tear in my eye sharing this with you all that are in this room, because it's the first time that I can speak out loud with like-minded and expressing my beliefs. But what's going on now for me in some short way, I think what's happening in Sudan, I think what's happening in Nigeria, I think what's happening in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Niger, so many fronts that can give us to the diaspora the access to the truth and stand by oneness. If you know what I mean. Is it too deep? No. What is your sayings about it? Because many democratic countries supported by the West, white people using Malcolm X t-shirt in my day-to-day. Malcolm X Center in Bristol, which is a house of great events in a way, but they serve them. They serve. They look at us has all Malcolm X, all Martin Gay. We are blackness, right? They want a black friend. It's not about being black friend. They are rooted. But at the same time, it's for them. It's for their sense of self-guilt. I'm doing this. I'm okay. I'm supporting the minorities. Look at them. They are so colorful. This is not what I stand up for. Maybe the revolution comes in the fronts that it's happening now in Africa, I do believe, regarding technology and regarding like-minded people, especially young politicians that share our values. They need to rise in power to cut the links with the fuel system, the system that is fueling the hate between one another.
Yes.
Sorry, brother, to say that that's the truth. So that's what I think that I'm trying to be aware.
Thank you for coming, brother. For sharing your thoughts. It's a serious one, and I think that like a serious study, and I don't know that one exists. So I'll be glad to hear of one from anybody who does know. But there's a serious study needs to be done on Portuguese colonialism as a propaganda like socialization tool. That just one thing that to identify the seriousness of that dynamic here. When I was young, going to like college and university, I began to realize that a number of the African people who self-identified to me as Portuguese had actually never been to Portugal. Right? They were born there. People that were born in Angola, right? You know what I'm saying? So initially when they said that, I thought, okay, your parents are probably from Angola, but you're born in Portugal. I began to realize, no, they've never been to Portugal. These are people that migrated directly from Angola, yes, and now live in the UK and are identifying as Portuguese.
My brother, I say that it's something that, unfortunately, what I'm saying, it can be like a joke, but it's not a joke. Portuguese colonization is underrated. It's bigger than any history book that I do believe that can. It was, besides violent and besides more raw in human acts, was bigger because people don't see that short country, that small country in Europe, has linkage between the two trades of slaves, between Brazil and Africa. That was the main point for slavery. It was not Bristol, like they say. They say that Bristol was the biggest capital economics of the slave trading in UK. Everyone is a lord here in Bristol, especially. It's ridiculous. But Portugal was the whole Bristol. So Bristol was a city. Portugal was the whole country. It is the port of slave trading. So that's why I'm a product of it. After the war was in 1974. Everything was silent, and they brainwashed our brothers in West Africa as being Portuguese is safe. It's safe to say it. Because you are safe. If you are Portuguese, you are safe. No matter if you know the country, no matter if you know the constitution, you are safe. You say that you are Portuguese, and that's what's happening. So,
you know what, brother? I just want to appreciate you for coming through and sharing this with us today. It has moved me a lot. I'm not gonna lie to you. You've moved me on a spiritual level. So I'm just beyond just the words that you're speaking, the energy that you're bringing.
Thank you, brother.
So I appreciate you, and I'm glad that you were able to get through, visually and audio. You know what I'm saying? And so I look forward to you joining us again many times.
I wanted to do this question before the others because sometimes I forget that I was speaking with you like if I was in a pub, which is a good sign for me. But I would love to be a portal for you. I don't know where you are based, brother. Sorry.
London.
Okay. You are in London, brother, man.
Yeah, I'm north from you.
Okay, so you are so closer than we expect. It's like thank you for those observations and for everything that silently I was feeding my journey with. But let's keep in touch. Exactly. Any time there's the possibility for me to join with the chat with the variety of the thematics that you guys approach and cover, I will be delighted to have a word to say, or that my opinion can count as one.
Give thanks, brother. Much appreciated. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated. Much love, brother man. Yeah.
All right,
Please.
giving thanks, brothers and sisters. I'm going to ask all those who are on the panel now to excuse themselves as I close the show. We appreciate you all. Brother Yah, we appreciate African Insurgent. We appreciate.
Thank you.
Yeah, blessings. All of you have a good evening. Our afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. We appreciate you all. As I wrap up the show right now, we're gonna just check the chat one more time. Blessings, King. All right, family, we are here. We're there. Thanking all those brothers and sisters who have listened in today, tuned in. Click the like button, the share button, the subscribe button. We love or no. Yeah. And today we were just sharing the article that the link is in the chat for this article, which is concerning the declassification of documents concerning British intelligence and their machinations in the African continent, particularly in relation to Ghana, and the overthrow of the Osaje for Kwame Nkrumah. Top secret document exposes the role in the UK role in Ghana coup. Yeah. So we're there, kings and queens. We're just exposing, as Brother Imhotep said, the crimes of the 20th century. You know, Marcus Garvey said, future generations shall have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. That's what Papa Garvey say, you know. Yes, that's what Papa Garvey say. I wonder if certain Imhotep knows say it might evoke the spirit of Marcus Garvey when them said them one day a while ago. Papa Garvey said, future generations shall have in their hands the guide by which they shall know the sins of the 20th century. So yes, kings and queens, we're gonna move on the spirit that Imhotep did bring to the platform today, and we're gonna construct some kind of programming around the crimes of the 20th century. We must do that. Yeah. So give thanks for that suggestion, Imhotep. And we receive suggestions, you know, brothers and sisters, for how we can improve our broadcasting and our streaming. We have our own, you know, trajectory that we're on, but we want to grow with our people and those who are dedicated to development of Pan-African media. All right. There is one at gotkushTV in the chat, so I will take this before I close. gotkushTV, I think that identifying as Portuguese also had a direct correlation to colonization of language. Most Angolans speak Portuguese as their mother tongue, which is crucial to identity. Agreed. I don't know how much different that is though to other African nations. Like most people that were formerly colonized by France speak French. You know, most people that are formerly colonized by England speak English. I don't know if you're saying that there's a higher rate of monolinguality as far as Portuguese is concerned among nations that are formerly colonized by Portugal. I'm not sure if that's what you're saying, but yeah, I do take your point about the identity. You know what I'm saying? It's a serious level of indoctrination I've got on this. So it's a fair know that as Brother Yao said, Portuguese colonization is underrated. Serious statement that. All right, kings and queens, brothers and sisters. All right, Trigger Happy is still there, so we'll take it again. But it's because many Africans in those language terrorized areas speak African languages in their mother tongue. It's a difference. Okay, I would notice, but I get what you mean. So I think what you're trying to say is that Africans in other places, they can speak their mother tongue and the colonial language, whereas many who are colonized by Portugal only speak Portuguese. That's how I'm understanding what you're saying right now. So I hope I'm not incorrect, but we'll we can correct that on a future show. No doubt we're going to come back to the issue of language, because me love the language question, you know. Me in it. Yeah, me well in the language question. So yeah, stay tuned for more on the importance of African languages to political, social, and economic development. Yeah, okay, family, it has been real. We are going to be back with you, if not before, on Ojibane Tuesday next week. Yes, so do stay tuned for Zivanai on Tuesday next week, where we will be doing a part 2 to our Zivanai, which was Tuesday gone, where we're going to be talking about confessions of the Black Conservative Industrial Complex. Confessions of the Black Conservative Industrial Complex. Coming to you the 12th of March. Yes, indeed, family, the 12th of March from 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. EST, and the rest I want to kind of situate myself from where on the day in the world, from 8 p.m. GMT and 3 p.m. EST. And with that, I say to thee, Tendamwadi, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kudzai, Modzimo, Mokuro, giving praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
Ghana, democracy under fire. Delving deep into the political theater of Ghana in the lead up to the general election in December 2024. We welcome activist, organizer, and writer Bonchi Anyete as our regular co-host and analyst, breaking down the dynamics in his unique and entertaining way. Tune in to our very first show, Decoding Ghana's Political Theater, Tuesday, the 27th of February, 2024, from 8 p.m. GMT, live on gotkushTV. And we look forward to you joining us every 4th Tuesday of the month throughout 2024. Ghana, democracy under fire. This is a show not to be missed.
Why are we all of a sudden having crisis in identity? At the very moment, we also talked about what? Afrocentrism and African what? Centeredness. So right at this moment, when we are beginning to coalesce and to develop a concept of African identity and Afrocentrism, we are all now suddenly in a what? Identity crisis. Is the identity crisis really there? Or is what going on an attempt to do what? Create an identity crisis. Because these people are well aware of what a full and wholesome identity will do to them. And they are aware that an African-centered identity represents the end of white power and of white oppression.
Okay, what it do, Sober Soldier, salute. This is Stick from Dead Prayers with my partner, M1, and you are in tune to gotkushTV.
There was empires in Africa called Kush, Timbuktu, where every race came to get booked. My success to you, even if you wish me the opposite. Sooner or later, we'll all see who the prophet is.
Achomi na jeli bojo kwe ni biane nyenko gotkushTV nyeyiradon. My name is Na Jeli Bojo Kwe, and right now you're watching gotkushTV. Thank you.